Welcome back to The Long Faith. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. We've just been talking about things that we can do in our life to make sure that we are in this for the long haul. Today, I want to talk to you about boredom. Boredom can seem like a pretty insignificant conversation, but to be honest with you, it's something super important in order for us to have the long faith that we want. You know, boredom can cause, if we're not careful, cause us to drift. It can cause us to just wander away from the things that are super important, super steady in our lives, just because we have this feeling of wanting something more out of life. It's not that God is boring. God is not boring at all. But sometimes faith can be boring. And the reason is because it just becomes part of an everyday routine. You know, we just seem to be caught up in doing the same thing over and over and over, like paying bills and carrying on responsibilities that are important, but they just seem to be over and over. Like, and conversations, we have the same conversations every day, it seems to be. And after a while, it just seems like we start asking ourselves, like, is there more to this? Is this all that there is? And the reality is there is more. And we will always find ourselves in these moments that we have those times of questioning. Boredom isn't always bad, though. In fact, most of the videos out there that you probably will find yourself watching actually highlights the important parts of being bored. Like if it wasn't for the fact that we have these moments that we just are daydreaming or being bored, we wouldn't create things. A lot of amazing things in life are created in those moments of reflection, which, by the way, is another positive thing about being bored. I was just talking to high school kids about the other day, and that is self reflection. It's in those moments that we actually put down our phone and we find ourselves a little bored, that we can have self-reflection times where we can just think about, you know, what we wish we would have said differently or done differently. And it's in those moments that God really instills and builds some amazing character traits in us. So being bored and times of being just not knowing what to do with life, or that it's not very exciting, can be very helpful. But it also can be very uh, um, dangerous. And the reason is because it can cause us to drift into things that aren't good for us, drift away from things that are good for us, drift away from God, drift away from being faithful when we need to be. So we want a life that is steady, that is faithful, that does not drift away from, you know, the things that our lives should align with, keeping us centered and focused. Maturity happens in the ordinary. That's just the reality of it. When we stay faithful in the ordinary and we don't find ourselves drifting away from it, that's where God ends up building some really character traits that are very mature in us. And so we want to do that. I have a neighbor who owns some land, quite a bit of land. I just own a little bitty spot out in the country, but he has taught me a lot about being faithful in the ordinary. You know, it's not like I can't imagine that he just dreams about and can't wait to wake up and do the same thing over and over and over, like clearing brush and chopping down cedars that he already has cleared before in the same area. But one of the things that he has taught me is just being faithful day in, day out. He gets up about the same time every morning, gets out there working about 8:39 or something of that sort, and he's done about noon. It's not a full day's of work, but the fact that he is faithful in his work day in and day out makes a huge difference. His place is so nice and cared for. He's a retired gentleman, somewhat. I mean, he has some cattle and some goats and stuff that he cares for. But this is his routine day in and day out, and it really pays off. And it just makes me realize that that's the kind of faith I want, right? The kind of faith that is consistent and steady through each day's work and task, even in the routine, even in the ordinary things of life. I coach at a local college and I teach kids how to shoot, skeet, and trap. One of the things about that job that I find interesting is that the kids, they are excited about, the exciting part of it. They love pulling the trigger and they love trying to get this clay that's flying out in the air to break into hundreds of pieces. And they find satisfaction and fulfillment in that. But they also get super discouraged when they aren't doing that. They pull the trigger and nothing breaks and they can't figure it out. But the reality is, the better we want to be at that sport is the more we give into the ordinary part of the sport. The more that we give ourselves to the practice and the things that aren't very exciting. When we spend, and that's where most of our time is spent if you want to be good at it. But when we spend that time, it's not wasted time. It's important time. Roots in a tree are probably the most important thing of the tree, to be honest. But it's the part that nobody sees, and it's the part that's growing little by little, day in, day out, steadying the tree. And that's really what we want to think about when we think about those moments in our life that seem to be routine, that seem to bring that feeling of being bored, is that it's super important for us to be steady in those times. Colossians 3:23, it tells us that whatever we find our hands to do wholeheartedly, as if doing them for the Lord and not for man. And I know I paraphrase that just slightly, but the point is that we really can find purpose in the ordinary, especially when we find that that's where maturity is built, that's where faithfulness is built, that's where steadiness is built, and that's what really carries us through. And realize that our purpose in doing these things has to be rooted in doing them literally for the Lord and not, for some other less important thing. I want to give you like 4 practices that will help you through your times of boredom. And the first one is just to don't panic. When boredom comes, don't let it cause you to look for something to replace that or change that and just throw away everything that's important in life. I think that's where people get hung up on things on the internet that they shouldn't be, or where they just go find something else that they think is exciting for the moment and replaces that feeling of boredom, but they end up ditching everything that's important in life. Or go find another job. I mean, not that another job is a bad thing, but you end up losing out on the things that are good about longevity and long faith. And so just realize that there's something great that can be produced in just to managing those times of boredom or routine. The second thing is just all it takes a lot of times to get you through those moments of boredom is just a little, what I call adding a small spark to it. Instead of changing things greatly and drastically, like a job or something, a relationship that shouldn't be. Rather, it's just adding a small spark to it. Maybe just changing up your routine of the day, driving to work a different route, listening to Christian music, as you're going to work or coming home, or something different than you've done before. Maybe even just taking a walk and praying while you walk, if that's not something you're doing. But just something different than what you've done is all you need sometimes and oftentimes to just change you or push you out of that moment that feels like routine that brings boredom and puts you back into being steady and finding satisfaction in the steadiness. A third thing is just getting back to the basics. A lot of times boredom, we find ourselves in dissatisfied in that time. But if we look at it, it's just because we got a little bit away from the basics of the importance of community in your church and just finding, rediscovering why that's so important, or rediscovering why you go to the Lord and pray on a regular basis, or reading scripture, or any of those kinds of things. Even how your faithfulness contributes to your family's legacy, and their faithfulness can sometimes just pull us out of that. But just getting back to the basics. The last thing I wanted to share with you about that is just remember that boredom isn't your guide. It really isn't. It's feelings, and feelings are important and they're real, but feelings are not the wisest thing to let guide you. And boredom would not be the thing that you want to guide you in life. Well, I feel bored, so I need to go find something exciting in life. You don't want it to be what directs your path. You want it to be is truth and Jesus, and being faithful in the moments of ordinary to direct you. And so I just wanted to encourage you not to let boredom be your guide. Anyway, I just wanted to encourage you today to really be paying attention to those times that sneak up into our life and make us feel like life is so ordinary, and you find yourself wondering what to do with it. Well, what to do with it is to let it mature you. Be okay with it, and then work your way through it, like not panic, but just being steady through it, finding a small spark that just kind of reignites you, and also that reminds you just of how to get back to the basic things of life. Loving those around you, finding something kind to do for somebody else, realizing the value of community and prayer and scripture reading and things that sort, and not letting it be your guide. So, if we're going to be in these things for the long faith and have a long faith and stay steady in it, then this is just one of those things that we have to recognize are going to come, and we have a way of dealing with them. And just want to wish you well and want to welcome you to the long faith. If you find this kind of content and important for you to walk through with somebody and contemplate with somebody, then I hope that you'll push like or subscribe and just join us on this journey. It's an important conversation and encouraging one another in the long faith. Until then, we'll see you.